All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our training today. Welcome to the Local Streets and Roads Funding Program Fiscal Year Funding Eligibility Technical Training. My name is Alicia Sequeira. I'm an Assistant Deputy Director with the California Transportation Commission, and I am the Programming Manager over the Local Streets and Roads Funding Program. With me today, I have Celeste Almanza and Leanne Bachan. They are a part of our LSR program analyst team, and we are here to assist you and go over the requirements of today. They'll be manning the chat, Q&A feature, and raised hands, so please feel free to ask questions. Please note, we will be stopping throughout the training in order to do Q&A. So don't worry about that. I promise we'll try to address everyone. We usually do. And with any luck, you may gain a few minutes back in your afternoon. So to get things started, oh, and just a reminder before I start going too far, in the chat feature right now, you will find a copy of the slides for today's presentation, as well as a sample resolution for you to reference. So again, in the chat feature, you can access a link or an upload to the presentation slides, as well as the sample resolution that we will be going over. And let's get started. So today's technical training objectives. The program roles and responsibilities will be covered. Fiscal year program schedule, fiscal year funding eligibility, proposed project list submittal, CalSmart, frequently asked questions, then we'll do some resources. Again, for those of you who have been with us for a while, this is all going to be relatively the same information for the first half, and then we will do a live demonstration of the CalSmart system and how to go through your submittal process. So usually it takes about 35 minutes for the first half, and then we will get straight to the live demonstration portion. So really briefly, the program roles and responsibilities. As for the commission, what is our role? We develop and adopt the program guidelines. We receive and review proposed project lists and expenditure reports from the cities and counties who are participating in the program. Please note, we do not, what is not a part of our role, we do not approve your projects per se. We just check to make sure that they are eligible and compliant with statute and our guidelines. We also do not require that you come to us for action on any sort of scope project changes that you're making. You have full flexibility within the program itself in order to do that on your own. Those changes just need to be captured during your expenditure reporting period. We also adopt and transmit the list of cities and counties that are deemed eligible to receive the road maintenance and rehabilitation account funds through apportionments to the state controller's office. We also aggregate and provide statewide program information to the legislature annually, and we post all of our information that is collected, the project list submitted, and the reporting on the back end. We do all of that and post that onto our website. Something I want to sort of take a moment to applaud all of you on, if you're not aware of, we underwent a audit with the California State Auditor's Office that was requested by the legislature this past year. So the program was audited, and I am very, very happy to say that the 6 cities and 1 county, I believe, as well as the commission, had very, very positive outcomes in that audit in what we are doing here. And I can tell you that we as the commission could not do what we do without you putting in the hard work and effort of making sure that you're reporting, being compliant with all of the requirements of the program, as well as communicating back and forth with us and participating in trainings such as these. I really and truly believe that it helps this program not only be successful, but successfully get the funds to where they need to go, which is to our localities on their local streets and roads for repair needs. Continuing on with our program roles and responsibilities for you as the cities and counties, it is to develop and submit the adopted list of projects to the commission each fiscal year that you are seeking to receive funding. Develop and submit an expenditure report to us each year. The state controller's office, their requirements are to apportion and disperse the program funds to cities and counties that are consistent with our list that was adopted and transmitted to them. And they are doing this by a set formula. There's no way to adjust your amount that you're receiving. So the number of projects that you submit or the cost of the projects that you're submitting does not have an impact on how much money you are receiving. This is fully formulaic. They also oversee other local government spending requirements as a part of the program. This includes the maintenance of effort reviews and determinations. We do not really speak on the maintenance of effort aspect of the program because it does not fall within the commission's roles and responsibilities. We truly have no part in that whatsoever. So if you do have questions in regards to that, we have resources and contacts for you through the state controller's office if that's needed. So for our program schedule, we still say it's a newly adopted schedule because we do have some veterans of the program who remember our old schedule and get a little confused every once in a while. But adopted in 2021 is what we call the new schedule. And that is by July 1st, you are to have your proposed projects that were adopted via resolution submitted to us for initial eligibility for the fiscal year. We then adopt that at our August commission meeting and transmit that to the state controller's office for disbursement by the end of August. It takes them a bit of time, and then you'll receive your first bit of funds in September. If you are unable for any reason to meet that July 1st deadline, we do have what's called the subsequent eligibility period. This is required and codified within the statute. So by September 30th is our date that you would have to submit that to us. Again, it has to be in a adopted, complete, and compliant resolution and project list that is submitted to us by September 30th. We then adopt it in October, and then those first batch of funds to those agencies or jurisdictions will begin in October, or I'm sorry, in November. We adopt in October, they begin dispersing in November. Please note that this just delays you receiving funds. It does not withhold or reduce the amount of funding that you receive for the total of the year. Some people get a little worried and very confused about that aspect, but please note that is not the way it works. And so you do not lose funding by coming in late by the subsequent eligibility. If you failed to come in by subsequent eligibility of September 30th, you will effectively be forfeiting your apportionments for the entire fiscal year. December 1st is what is our annual expenditure reporting due date. Again, we've been achieving 100% on all of these every year since 2018-19. We have not missed a single agency reporting, or 2017-18, we haven't had anyone miss reporting, and since 2018-19, we've had 100% eligibility every year. And we would like to keep that going with your help. So again, just to reiterate, July 1st, we keep it open until 11:59 p.m. on July 1st within the CalSmart system for you to be able to submit your lists that have been adopted via resolution in CalSmart. You also, by this time, have to have created that list of projects that were adopted within the system itself for the fiscal year. And then make sure you do not forget to hit submit. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened and regularly happens. So please, please, please make sure that you've done that. Again, just a reminder, if the above is not done by July 1st, you do have until September 30th at the latest to get that into us. The only thing that we do ask, and I cannot stress this enough, and I'm going to repeat it multiple times, so hopefully it sticks with everyone, communicate with us. If you are unable to meet that July 1st deadline for whatever reason, and there are several reasons that it happens, and that's totally fine, just communicate with us, let us know. So number one, we can note that you've communicated that with us, and when we are letting your regional partners or your RTPAs or MPOs know what's happening and the status of everyone in their area, they can be informed what your intention is. We also inform the commission of that during our adoption action item in October, or I'm sorry, in August. And so we let them know what your intention is for subsequent eligibility. We also will set reminders and send you reminders to make sure that we don't miss a date, and you give us a ballpark figure of when you anticipate to adopt it. And so we will work with you on that. The resolution that you're adopting, this must be specific to the upcoming fiscal year for your RMRA funds, not a part of another budgetary action or project adoption. A lot of times what we see happens is because of the timeline of when this is going on, budgets are being adopted, your capital improvement plans are being adopted, and so maybe a blurb is added to that staff report or that resolution, and then an attachment is referenced where those other projects are located, saying these are the projects that we're going to do. And far too often, I cannot even express this, but far too often do we see where information is omitted, accidentally left off, not correctly identified. The assurances that are required as a part of the program, those aren't identified. So we have very specific things that have to be done and have to be included in there. And the only way to truly and accurately do this is to make sure that it's being done as a standalone item. You also must include the statutorily mandated assurances that I was mentioning. And this just means that you're saying that these funds will be used in accordance with statute, that the city and county will abide by the mandated eligibility and reporting requirements that are outlined, that you are agreeing and you're putting in there that you're including the statutorily mandated project detail. This means it includes a project description, location, useful life, and estimated schedule. I cannot tell you how many times we have had to send resolutions that have already been adopted back and say, I'm sorry, we can't accept these because you're missing some of the mandated information that's in there. And usually it's because the useful life is left off, the schedule or a location the location doesn't exist on what was adopted. And so therefore we can't accept it and deem it as compliant. And then you have to go back to your board or council and take action yet again. And believe me, no one likes that and no one wants to do that. The worst part is when it happens, after eligibility has closed, or we discover and are able to review it once eligibility has already closed. And then you either have to come in for subsequent eligibility, or what has not happened yet, thankfully. But my biggest fear is that someone comes in for subsequent eligibility and does just that, and then the deadline has closed and we cannot deem them eligible. So please, please, please do make sure everything is in there that needs to be in there. In order for it to be an executed resolution that we are looking at, it has to include the date that it was adopted. It has to be signed by someone with official signatory authority on behalf of the city or county. So those are the things that we have to be in possession of and what has to be on your resolution in order for us to be able to deem it compliant. The list of projects that are proposed should only the list of projects that are proposed should only identify those projects that are intended to utilize the upcoming fiscal year's RMRA apportionment. So this means newly proposed projects and or even previously proposed and adopted projects, often referred to as multi-year funded projects. So something that came up in our earlier session if you are reserving funds in order to accrue enough to deliver a specific project, you still have to put that project on your resolution each year, right? Because that's the future year funds that you're trying to get in order to deliver the project that you're proposing. And that's fine if that project is 2 years out, not a big deal, but it does need to be adopted. It does need to be in there so that we can show this is where the funds are intending to go. The list of projects must be adopted and submitted to the commission each year. You cannot just submit a resolution without any projects on it. We've had a couple of people say, well, we have no new projects that we're proposing. We're still using our prior year projects, and we're going to use the future funds to fund those projects that we've already had on the list. So we don't have anything new that we're doing. Identify something. It's either you're relisting an old project that you're still using future years funds for, or you're forecasting a future project that you intend to use those funds for. One or the other, but there needs to be a project on there. And whatever you do, please do not resubmit the prior year's adopted resolution and list. Even if when you adopted the resolution, you said it was for years, 22, 23 to 25, 26, doesn't matter. It has to be done annually, no matter what. That is codified in statute. We cannot make an exception, so you will need to do it regardless. The adopted list must include the following detail for each project listed. So this is just going into a little bit more of those 4 main things that have to be included in the project list detail. Just a little bit more in depth on that. For project description, just briefly describe the work that is to be performed. You can use, general terminology. It doesn't have to be crazy specific, but you have to give us an idea of what is actually going to be happening. For their project locations, for the most part, citywide, countywide, that's not acceptable. Statute states that the description of the project is something that should be identifiable to the general public. Saying citywide, countywide doesn't really suffice. Identifying a maintenance zone will not work, because as a member of the general public, most of them are not going to know what maintenance zone is and how to find it and figure that out. So if you do not want to provide like 200-300 segments worth of locations, you can identify general areas that the work is going to be taking place or is estimated to be done. If there are specific neighborhoods, give some sort of identifiable detail in your location so that a member of the public could know what's going on. If city and countywide is to be used, we only accept that when it is for what is called a procurement or operational needs type of project. This is where, feasibility studies are being done, an active transportation plan is being developed, you're servicing your equipment that you use to perform the work on the roadways, right? So it's that sort of thing that we're talking about, because it impacts the entire area, right? The other thing is, if you're in pre-construction design, you don't have your locations yet that you're identifying. Because of that, that's fine. And that's where you could say city, countywide, right? Let's see. To the next, for the detail, your proposed schedule for completion, this should be based on the phase component that you are funding. And so when we say phase or component, like I mentioned, pre-construction is an eligible use of the funds. And with that means that there's a potential that you're funding only pre-construction, or you're funding only construction. If you're only funding construction, or you're only funding the pre-construction efforts of a project, that's what you need to be reporting on. That's the detail that you need to be giving us, correct? If you're funding both aspects, pre-construction and construction of the same project, that's great. What you will do then in your resolution is you're going to identify that pre-construction estimated start date, and then you're going to identify the construction completion date. In the system itself, when you're reporting it, you'll be able to kind of break that down and separate it. Estimated useful life of improvement, just provide the average useful life for the work that will be performed. Um, and I know that that's hard on like procurement, operational needs types of projects or design type projects, but the intended purpose is, how long is this going to last us? If you're doing a design project or a pre-construction type of project that you're funding, what is the useful life of what you are designing, right? So how long is that going to be useful for that type of work? And just a reminder, any of these lists that are adopted within your resolution, if the projects do not have this mandatory detail, we have to deem it as non-compliant and send it back to you. And you will have to amend it and adopt it again. So to avoid doing that and getting corrective action from us, I would like to, and the entire LSR team, actually, we gratefully and strongly encourage you to submit to us your proposed resolutions and lists and in draft before you take them for action so that we can review them and let you know if there's any issues. This is proven to be highly successful for us. It has eliminated a lot of problems that we used to have. And every year we increase the number of draft resolutions and project lists that we're looking at that people are submitting to us because it has been so successful and it has really helped to aid and ease the overall eligibility process. So please, please, please do that. You will get in this slide and presentation, as well as in everything that is being sent to you, you'll be given an email address where you can send and request all of those things. So again, we have a funding eligibility checklist that is provided. It is available in CalSmart under the Help and Resources tab. We also provide it in our email reminders that we send out. And this goes over your funding purpose and what the eligible project detail is, resolution requirements, project list requirements, draft resolution. Basically, it is a combination of our presentation, the guidelines and statute in very succinct bullet point detail. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages. It's really, really easy to follow, and we strongly encourage that you use it. We also provide the draft resolution in that so that you can reference that and utilize it. If it works for you, please just, copy it word for word, but customize it as you see fit and what is required for you as your individual entity, and it is perfect. And it seems to be very helpful across the board. Again, if you are not going to meet that July 1st deadline, you let us know and we will work with you. Here is our email address, lsr@catc.ca.gov. We're very, very responsive. Just know the closer you get to any of the deadlines, the longer it will take us to respond to you, because at that point we're getting bombarded. So if you have questions, concerns, or issues, try to contact us as early as possible so that we can assist you in every way. And again, just a reminder, prior to taking your resolution and list to your council or board, send it to us, let us review it and provide you the feedback. It'll save all headaches and heartache across the board. At this time, please feel free to raise your hands, submit questions in the Q&A log if you need to. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding project list detail and resolution specifics.
Hi, Alicia. We do have one question. If we have a project that has different phases, would a new phase be a new project, or would that be relisting? For example, we have a citywide striping project that would focus on different parts of the city every year. Would that be a new project if it's concentrating on a different part of the city?
Well, part of that depends. Is this being done by your own labor forces, or is it under a individual contract that is that was awarded to perform the work? Generally speaking, annual paving, maintenance, rehab projects, sort of what you're describing or what I'm assuming, you may be referring to, those are just considered like annual maintenance, paving rehab types of projects. And so what happens is every year a new fiscal year is attached to the front of that project title, for, city paving and rehabilitation, or city slurry seal project, anything like that. Um, and the locations are updated each year with a new schedule. And so that's adopted annually. And it's sort of a standard thing that I would say overwhelmingly, 80% of our jurisdictions do this every year. And it's a wonderful use of your funds. It's as intended. So again, that would just be like an annual project that you're submitting to us. If you have a project that is going across multiple years under one contract, that would be something that you wouldn't need to relist to readopt. You would just report on it until it's done. I hope that makes sense and clarified things.
Thank you. No more Q&A questions.
Awesome. We're going to save you guys so much time today. I feel it. All right. So now we are going to jump into what is called the California State Multimodal Application and Reporting Tool, referred to as CalSmart. So CalSmart is the only submittal method accepted for the adopted list of proposed projects. CalSmart is now open and will remain open until July 1, 2024. When I say open, this system is always accessible, okay? But when I'm referring to open, I'm referring to the fact that you can access, create a submittal, and submit it. You cannot make edits to a prior submittal. You cannot make edits or submit anything in expenditure reporting unless that period is open within the system and we've made it accessible to you, okay? If you are not already registered, please go to the CalSmart website to create an account. Again, this presentation is available in the chat. If you download that, you can click on where it says CalSmart here. It's linked and it'll take you straight to it and you can get into the system. You can also get there by going to our website and visiting the Local Streets and Roads program page, and under CalSmart resources and resources, that is there, and it'll link it and take you straight to it. One of the wonderful things about CalSmart, each agency can have multiple registered users. This means that you're not sharing passwords, right? And if somebody changes the password and doesn't tell you, the other person's not locked out, like you're fine, you're good to go. So multiple people that work for your jurisdiction can definitely access the information at any given time, pick up where you've left off or where the prior person was working. Let's say, especially because this happens right around 4th of July holiday, right? Oftentimes people are on vacation and someone may forget to hit the submit button. And we don't know why we haven't received your submittal yet, and we're noting that it's late, whatever. Someone from your team who also has access or is just trying to gain access so that they can do that for you, they can request the login, get in by registering, and gain access and submit on your behalf. So it's a really great function. One thing I cannot stress enough, though, is if you are a consultant or have a consultant that is doing this work for you on behalf of your city and other entities, they cannot use just one email. They would have to have an individual email to access each individual jurisdiction that they are representing and submitting information for. If you do have a consultant that's doing this work for you and it's their first time registering, please have that consultant along with a member of your team let us know that they have the authority to do so and to gain access within the system. If they do not have an email that is associated with you as the entity and they're requesting it, and it's not the appropriate email for your city or county, we will not accept it and they won't be allowed to register. So we would have to know that ahead of time. So here's the CalSmart login page. This may seem odd that I'm going to stress this the way I'm going to stress this, but I cannot stress it enough. This account, it will lock if you have 3 failed attempts on your password. If you fail twice, do not attempt a third. Just go ahead and reset your password by selecting forgot password, and it's going to reset it. Okay. If you do it 3 times and it locks, it does not notify us that it is locked. You're the only one that knows that it's happened. You will have to notify us, and we will, as we get to your email that you've notified us, or if you try calling and you get a voicemail, and if when we get to your voicemail, we see that this has happened, we can go in and unlock it for you. But we won't know that that's happened unless you tell us. What it tends to be the issue, though, is that this very commonly happens the last week and a half before submittals are due. And we are so flooded and inundated with emails going back and forth with every jurisdiction that's still trying to get in and help them with other things, that it may be some time before we see that you tell us that you've been locked out. And that can cause a lot of problems. So to avoid that at all costs, I just recommend that if you go twice and it doesn't work, do not go for a third. All right, and just reset that. So here's the registration page. This is an older screenshot. There's a couple of changes to it, but that's just to the programs that are available here in CalSmart now. But so when you need to register, you're going to enter in your information, job title, select the agency that you work for. Only select local streets and roads. Unless you are doing work on these other programs and have already been asked by someone within your jurisdiction to gain access to CalSmart because you need access to any of the other programs that are identified in here, don't do it. Don't select anything else but local streets and roads, because what will happen is you will get their reminders that go out for their programs. You will accidentally access the wrong program when you think that you're trying to do our submittal or reporting, and then inadvertently either create an erroneous record on the other program's page, or call us frantically saying, oh my gosh, it doesn't work and I don't understand this report, or I don't understand how to submit because everything's different now. And it's not that anything's different, it's just that you went into the wrong place. So to avoid that, I wouldn't even hit any of those other particular projects or programs that you see there. And a lot of times what happens is other SB1 funded programs, that box that you can check, that one has caused a lot of problems. We are LSR and LSR only. The other programs, SB1 programs, are completely separate from us, and the system doesn't talk to each other in regards to those programs. So for your confirmation, we'll just go really quickly. Once you've filled everything out and you've done your registration, you are going to get a verification email. If you do not verify your email from that, it will never send us your request that you would like to access the system and be registered into the system. Therefore, we will not be able to accept it and you won't get in. We won't even be able to go in on the back end and just accept it for you, right? There's no way for us to do it. You don't appear. So you will have to make sure that you verify it. Once you've verified it, you will get an email saying, thank you for verifying your email. Your registration has been submitted. And then we are notified about that at the exact same time. And as soon as we see that, when we can, we go in and we go ahead and accept it and give you the appropriate rights and access points. So I'm about to jump into the live demonstration. Before I do, are there any questions?
Nothing from the Q&A.
Okay,
And there's no hands raised.
perfect. All right, so just give me 2 seconds. I gotta pull up the right page. So one thing that we're going to do, and I just want to thank, I don't think they are on this right now, but I do want to thank the city of Davis for, their hard work and what they've done to assist us. They have allowed for us to utilize their resolution as a sample and provide that to all of you today as we walk through the system. And so if any of you are ever interested in doing so, you let us know and we are happy to accept. Oh. Okay. Sorry, guys. Little navigation issue. There we go. Okay, so this is the CalSmart screen. When you are in CalSmart, this is what you're going to see when you log in and you're getting ready to go. What I want to do first, though, is show you where you can find what your estimated apportionment amount is for the fiscal year. And that is going to be on this website here. I'll go back one button. Right here on this website, the California Local Government Finance Almanac, this particular website and this party who does this, they are a third party not associated with state government at all, as in, Department of Finance or here the commission or the state controller's office. We are not associated with them. They are a company who provides this service and contracted out by the California League of Cities. And so they provide these estimates for all of you. So once you go to their website, you're going to go under hot topics and you'll be selecting it's like fourth bullet down. It says local streets and roads funds, HUDA and SB1. And if you do not know what HUDA is, that is the Highway User Tax Account Fund. And that's the taxes that you were receiving prior to SB1 for your public works. So once you go to that page, you're going to go to where it says transportation funding sources. And it's the second one down. It says local streets and roads estimates, fiscal year 2023 and 24 and 24-25. And when you select that, this list will appear. And this has got all 539 jurisdictions are listed on it. And so you can see what you were estimated to receive in 23-24, right? The first column is always going to be the HUDA tax. The second column is the road maintenance and rehabilitation account funds. And that is us. That's this local streets and roads program. So 23-24 is the first one that you see. And then 24-25, that's your upcoming fiscal year that you're seeking eligibility. So once you find your jurisdiction on here, you go to the second column under the 24-25 side, and you're going to find the amount that you are estimated to be apportioned. And that's the information that you're going to use and include within your sample resolution. And looking at the sample resolution, right here, we have the city of Davis. Like I said, they provided this to us as they sent it to us as a draft review, and we thought it was a good example of something that we could show you here during our live presentation. So what you are going to see, and this is actually built directly from our sample resolution that we have provided to everyone. So as you see, it clearly states that this resolution is intended to adopt the list of projects for this specific fiscal year that you're seeking the funding for and under which you're seeking it for, which is the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, affectionately known to all of us as RMRA, or the Local Streets and Roads Program. And those assurances that I was talking about are also in here. which is, the aspects of what you have to do in order, must adopt, what you have to do in order to receive these funds, what you have to do to maintain the funds. Then you have in here the amount that you're anticipated to receive for the fiscal year. And please do not get this confused with how much you're anticipating on spending for the upcoming fiscal year. We've had that happen quite a few times where, some new folks have come in and they put the total amount that they're proposing to use in RMRA funds on a project or for projects in the fiscal year. And that's not what you're doing. You're identifying that you're aware that you're about to receive these funds if you are deemed eligible, and this is how you're going to use them. Again, all of the assurance that we discussed are in here. Also the referencing of the need and purpose of what the funds are for. There is a 2023 California statewide local streets and roads needs assessment that was published in April of 2023. And I know that we shared that out. So what I can do is as a part of the attachments that we send out as a follow-up from today's training, we can send a link to that particular assessment and you can reference the 2023 needs assessment instead of 2021 in your resolution. And so here we go into the meat and potatoes of how it looks when you're adopting a your project list within your resolution. And so here they're identifying their intended use of the funds, that the following proposed and adopted projects will be funded in part or solely with the fiscal year 24-25 funding. And you can see in here, it says with the relisting of these projects. So they are relisting a prior project. If it was a new list of projects, it would just say these newly proposed projects. We have that language in there. And so all of this is already built into the sample and you can pick and choose, which one that you're going to use. That's the right fit for you. The other thing that I want to point out is you can relist and adopt an old project as well as adopt a new project in the same year. That's fine. And so again, all of that's already built into the system or into our sample resolution, and we highly encourage you to use it. So, and then, someone had asked about project phases. And I said, well, there's annual pavement projects that people propose every year. This is a really great example. This is exactly what that is. So 2023-24 pavement rehabilitation project. And so they identify that they use their CIP to identify what locations and what type of work needs to be done. And this is their annual paving project that they're doing based on that. And so their proposed locations are in there as well. And the estimated project start and completion, as well as estimated useful life. And there you have it. That's all the information that needs to be in there. And then they have their area for signature. So we are going to pretend right now that all of that is signed and executed, but I just thought that's a really good and simple example of how this can be done. And it's very straightforward. It doesn't need to be complicated. One thing I also want to show you is a sample. City of Oxnard was really wonderful in allowing us to reference their resolution today. And so they did a great job in this. And what I like about this is that it's very, very clear. They entered in a table, copy pasted, provided the information right in there, broken down headers, and it makes it super easy for us to see that everything is compliant in the way that all of the information is presented. And so that's super crucial and important. We find it much easier when you do that. And so if you'd like to do something like this, we highly encourage you to do it. This is very similar to the types of printouts that you could get from our system when you select create PDF, if you build your list out before you take your system, your resolution in for adoption, which by the way, you can already be building out your list and getting everything started in CalSmart before you ever take anything in for adoption. That saves you time and it can help you in how you're building everything out into the system. You can use it as an attachment to your resolution and say, we're adopting the list of projects that are identified in attachment A. That works for us. We love that. So just a couple of ideas for you. So now I'm going to go back to the CalSmart page. Select login. This is the first page that you're going to see once you've logged in after you've done everything. This is the dashboard page. It's always going to identify you by the city that you're or jurisdiction that you're representing. So make sure that you're in the right one, right? And then in order to access, we mentioned help and resources tab a number of times. In order to access the help and resources tab specific to local streets and roads, you do have to come to here where it says current program. Drop down and you'll select local streets and roads program. When you do that, automatically the dashboard is going to show you that you're in this particular program. It's going to identify if you are logging in and accessing the system during the time that we have an open eligibility period or open reporting period within the system has been set. And so that's what this message is telling you. These thumbnails below, fiscal year proposed project list submittals. This is where you're going to go today. Expenditure reporting, that is what you do come December 1st. That's due to us December 1st, your individual profile, and then the wonderful help and resources tab. When you select help and resources tab, you will see that you have the LSR funding eligibility checklist. The sample resolution is provided in there, as well as the proposed project list submittal webinar technical training, which is what you're doing today. In the slides that are provided here and what were on your chat, they are detailed slides with screenshots navigating you step by step through the system, which is what I am doing here right now. So I don't like hitting the back button too much in here because sometimes it can be a little wonky. So in order to get back to my dashboard, I can come up here on the very top and it says dashboard submittals, reporting and users. I'm going to select dashboard for right now. And I'm going to go back and select fiscal year proposed project list submittals. You'll see that there are 3 thumbnails here. Manage your fiscal year proposed project list submittals, create year proposed project, fiscal year proposed project submittals, and then view proposed. When you go into view proposed, you can see everything that you've ever proposed, the status. You can actually export these as well into an Excel spreadsheet, and you can select the fiscal year that you're looking for, which is, pretty cool. Manage your fiscal year proposed project list submittals. This is where you're going to come. Again, this is your actual page of what's recorded in the intake system. So, and it tells you a quick reference. It's almost like a dashboard of the dashboard just for your manage pages. And it's going to show you your most recent, your first and then your most recent year of submittals in here. The green check marks, that means that everything's been reviewed and approved. Once you've done all of that, that's in there. But what you're going to notice is that you can't actually edit anything. You can't get into anything. The only thing that you can do is view the documents that you uploaded or create a PDF. And this is where I said you could generate something kind of like that table you saw for Oxnard. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you all of the information that you input into your intake system. And so this is going to tell you, contact information, all the details that were submitted, any additional information that they provided. And then you get the list of all of the projects that were submitted. And this is how they're broken down. So you see, it's just a little bit more detailed than what Oxnard had in there because it's showing everything based on what our system has. But you could copy this, you could recreate this in certain ways. But if you wanted to use this printout, which several do, you could print this out, put attachment A on the top, and submit that in once you've done it. And it ensures that you are not missing any of the required detail for your projects that are being adopted, which is a really great, sort of reassurance, I think, for me, and safety net, I would think for all of you. So back to CalSmart. So now I'm going to say, I want to start my submittal process, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to select Create Fiscal Year Proposed Project List Submittal. Once you have created this, if you select it again after it's already been created once, all it's going to do, it won't allow you to create a secondary. It'll automatically just take you to the Manage page because one's already been created for you. So as you see, what I showed you in that printout was the intake. The printout shows you all of this intake information. All of this can be updated. So if you've had changes and you have contact information that's changed, person changed, whatever it is, you're going to make all of those changes and corrections here. Your support documentation area that you're identifying, this is going to be where you're going to say, this is our resolution for this year and proposed project list that was adopted. If you are building this out prior to getting any of that done, what I always like to tell people to do, because I find it helpful, is if you enter in here, uploading placeholder or draft prior to adoption. And then once you've done that, you're going to come back in here, all of that's done. And once you've uploaded the actual one, this is where you would say executed or adopted resolution and project list. And you can add additional detail in there. That's fine. So then you're going to choose your file to upload. And it's really that simple, right? So now that's already been uploaded. If you are going to do projects, we have in our eligibility checklist, as well as in the guidelines, there is information that if you have a PCI of 80 or above, you have to identify that in order to do other types of projects with the funds. And so there's more detail on that in the system or in the eligibility checklist, as well as our program guidelines. And if that's the case, that's the only time that you need to identify your PCI. If you have not, and you're not doing those things, then don't worry about identifying your PCI. It's not a requirement. So there are some people that get a little concerned because maybe that hasn't been done in a while and they don't know what to do. And if they think it's a requirement, it's not a requirement. So don't worry about that. Down here, you can do additional information. This is where I strongly encourage you to add any detail. If you're talking about why you're re-proposing the same project for the third year in a row and adopting it for the third year in a row, and there's nothing else that you're doing that's being added to that list, just explain why. And oftentimes we do see this occur because especially with our smaller jurisdictions, they are accruing their funds year after year, building them up so that they can deliver the projects that they need. And so that's totally fine. And we encourage you to add that additional information in there, because if we get asked that question, this is what we would reference and we would want to look at it just to make sure, and kind of save anyone else the heartache of saying, hey, well, go ask them why they did it. Pursuant, something I want to show here, and there's a reason why we put it on the intake information, is the project flexibility portion of the program. Priorities can change. All of these are estimates. We don't know exactly what you're going to do each year. Local streets and roads, public works is very different than capital type of transportation projects and work that goes on. And I think the flexibility that you're afforded within this program is really pivotal to its success. The fact that you don't have to come to us for additional action in order to make changes to your lists, to add a new project, to remove a project, to change your scope of a project, whatever it is, You don't have to come to us for that type of approval or action. You just take whatever steps are necessary internally and you're good to go as long as you report it to us on the back end during your expenditure reporting, okay? So once you've done everything that's necessary on this page, you're going to hit save and continue. And that's where we're going to get into the listing portion of things. So as I stated, Davis is relisting a project, and I've got to double check which project that was again one more time. But this is where you would come in, and let's say, for the sake of today, let's say that they were relisting a project to do the work in, or to use funds from 24-25 in there, right? And the project was the 22-23 pavement project. They would take that from the fiscal year 22-23 expenditure report because it is the most recent detail that was entered and submitted on this particular project, because this was all sent to us in December. If they went all the way back to where they readopted that same project and relisted it in 23-24, this is going to be outdated information that is not the same and probably doesn't align exactly with what is in here in the 22-23. So this is just your most recent data and detail. That's why we have that up there. And that's why it's first for you to select. And to do it, you simply just select relist. Everything you entered has stayed in there. This information auto-populates where it says priority status and fiscal year. That's showing you the fiscal year it was first proposed, the priority status it was last reported from the expenditure reporting, project type, title, everything is in there. One thing that you want to make sure, because the only thing that doesn't transfer, and we haven't figured out why this particular thing does not transfer, but it doesn't. The project description boxes do not transfer for that relisting function. Believe me, we've tried to figure it out. It doesn't quite work, but so that's the only thing that you would have to add in here and make sure that you have selected. If you don't do that, as you see, it's an asterisk red, it's required to be done. So you need to make sure that it's being done, or the system will block it and it won't allow you to submit. Something else I want to show you here where it shows the project components. We have pre-construction, construction, pre-construction, and construction. So like I said, if you're funding both phases of that project, there you go. That's an option for you to identify. Procurement operational need. And just to give you an idea of what those things could be for procurement operational need, you have in here procurement of public works equipment, materials, work safety materials and gear, systems, databases for public works, staffing. So this is when you're using your own labor force to perform the work. And a lot of times we see this for like street sweeping, pothole repair, that kind of stuff. So very commonly that's in there. Repair, servicing of your equipment or your system. So that's in there. If something does not exist in our description fields, just click it and you'll be able to click other or additional information, and you can add clarification or additional detail there. So when you do pre-construction and construction, you're going to see it, we have in here document preparation, environmental study documents, feasibility studies, along with all of the construction items that we talk about. And then you'll come down and you need to enter in your dates. The state Senate Assembly, state Senate and state Assembly legislative districts are identified. So you need to make sure that you're updating that and identifying that as appropriate. The estimated useful life is in there. Estimated total project cost. This is not required to be put in there, but if you do put it in there, this should be all funding sources, not just what you're using of RMRA. Project location, as you see, it's not the biggest field. I think it's limited to about 500 characters because you do not need to report every single segment that is in there, or that the work is going to be performed in. You just need to make sure that you are identifying, giving us a general idea of where the work is taking place. Estimated start and completion. This is broken down pre-con schedule and construction schedule. The only time you'll see that is if you're doing both pre-con and construction, and that's what you selected. If you're not funding both, don't select it and don't provide that detail, because now you've just created an additional record that now you have to account for every year until it's delivered. So I suggest just don't do it unless you know you're funding both. Additional project elements. We have a way for you to identify, what that is, what it is that is being referenced in regards to that by hovering over. For some reason, it's not responding. It responded earlier in the other one. Okay, it's just not responding on my computer right now. I think my computer is getting tired. But if you hover over these, it usually shows the text box. Like I said earlier, it showed everything when we were doing it for the earlier training session. So, but it will show you what is meant by these elements, and you can identify what is applicable. If nothing is applicable, you can put no. If you're unsure if you're going to have these additional elements, you would do to be determined, okay? And so for the sake of this, I'm going to stop and just go back to the construction. So construction, we have in here, we can enter in the date information. So let's say this is all the date information that I'm inputting, right? And I've just updated everything here. And this is what we would want to do and how we would want to save that. And so you can hit save and continue, which would just open up a new project list or a new project, I'm sorry, for you to fill out and build out. Or you can hit save and exit, and that'll take you out of it and back to the relisting. For this particular right now, I'm just going to hit cancel. So I want to take you here to skip to add new projects. So if all you're doing is adding a new project and you are not relisting anything, don't scroll down here. Just ignore it. Pretend it doesn't exist, because it does you no good to relist anything if you don't actually need to. The other thing that happens a lot, and I need to stress this, please don't do it. Do not relist a project here in the system just because you want to update information on that project. If it didn't appear in your resolution and project list that you adopted, it should not be relisted in the system. Again, it causes erroneous records and reporting. That's number one. And number two, we won't accept it. We'll actually decline it, send it back to you and tell you that you have to remove it because it wasn't a part of your resolution that you adopted in that list, okay? So for the sake of argument, even though we know that they relisted a project, but I don't want to mess with their actual list, I'm going to come here to skip to add new projects. And this is where we could enter in new information about the project itself. Project title, ABC. All right, there we go, ABC. Project ID. This is not a required field, but please listen to me when I say this. If you internally have a project code or project identifier that you internally use to be able to track these projects that you're going to be reporting to us on, please enter that in there. Because if you're not here next year or come expenditure reporting, and the next person that's doing it has no idea because the project title is changed for whatever reason, right? And so they're not really sure what it is, they will skip it. and they're not sure if they're reporting on the right project or not, or they start reporting the wrong information on a different project, or they relist projects that shouldn't have been relisted, or they enter in an entirely new record because they couldn't find what you guys call the project internally, because maybe you're using a different description title for us and for this particular program. So just keep that in mind. Make it easier for yourself, make it easy for absolutely everyone. If you have an internal ID or log that you or code that you use to identify your projects, I recommend that you do it. So project type, as you see here, where it says project type, you do a drop down and it's going to show you all the options that you have. So we have complete streets components, match funds, other, road grade separation, road maintenance and rehabilitation, safety and traffic control devices. And so you want to select what is the most appropriate and applicable to you. Some of, like complete street components, that's also identifiable under additional elements. So let's say this project is mainly a safety project, but it has complete streets components in it, or it's a rehab project and paving project, but you're going to be doing some curbs, gutters, and sidewalks as a part of it as well. You would do road maintenance and rehabilitation here, and then go down and you could select complete streets, right? So you have options of how you could identify it. I would just identify it by main priority, and then what, if applicable, the additional elements, I would identify those later. So we'll just do road maintenance and rehabilitation priority status. Because it's a brand new project, we are going to select new, and we're going to type in here 24, 25. I'm going to identify it as a procurement operational needs project, and it's for materials and public works staffing, right? So it's the materials for people to do the work that they're going to perform. That would not have usually auto-filled, but it actually would have if you guys had just entered in information on another project. But so we'll just go here for your districts and assembly. I'm re-entering all the same information. Here we go for min max. Project location, ABC Boulevard. And then the schedule, right? So let's just pretend I've entered that all in here. I'm coming down here to additional elements, and I'm going to put, yes, you have complete street components in here. And once it's a new project, you see there's something different. There's an added tab at the bottom, or thumbnail at the bottom. So you still have save and exit, you still have save and continue, but the next thing you have now is save and duplicate. And if I did that, this is what you would see. So the project title is not there, but the project type is still consistent. The fact that it's still new, 24, 25 is still consistent. And then because it's still a procurement project that I'm entering, or I'm going to be putting information in on, that's all still selected and identified. So it just carried right in. I also now don't have to re-enter in my legislative districts or my useful life if, again, it's something similar that you're entering in. It could even be the same schedule, right? So that's why that auto populates. You can correct it if it needs to be, but what changes is location, because that definitely needs to be unique. You're not gonna enter in two projects for the same locations usually. So then you would enter in that information, and the additional elements aspect that does carry in auto populate, but you can adjust and change that if you needed. So I'm going to hit cancel. So the first project I entered, because I hit save and duplicate, it's already been saved. So now that I've hit cancel, it's just automatically taking me back to the relisting page. Please do not think that you are stuck on this page. This can become very confusing for some. You're not stuck on this page. You can get out of this page, Just because you're in this page does not mean that you need to continue to list or select things that are on this page. If you're done, you're done. And if you're done, just come up to the top right above the line, and select submittals. Once you've done that, you're going to come here to manage expenditure report, project list. I'm sorry, manage proposed project list submittals. And you're going to scroll down on the left-hand column side, bring the bar down, and you're going to find your fiscal year 24-25 submittal cycle. And once you've selected that, you will see all of the information you've entered is now available. You can select view files in order to, especially if you had your placeholder, you could hit review files, get in there and update, remove, upload an additional file, whatever you need, okay? So all of that's in there. If you select history, just an FYI, this is going to essentially just show you how many times you have submitted it to and from with us on this particular submittal report. So if we've sent it back for edits or whatever's going on, you're going to have that tracked history here. If you need to make edits to specific sections, you can hit the little edit pencils. All of that's going to be in there for you so that you can edit that particular field without having to go into a new page. And then to see the project that you specifically had just entered into, it's going to be right here on the projects box. If it's collapsed, expand it. You'll see on your far right side, it's there's a little box that says view. There's an eyeball that will take you to the project itself that you just entered in your information for. Everything's going to be grayed out and locked. You would have to select the edit button in order to edit that detail. And then you can save, delete, whatever it is that you need to do. So I'm going to select back. And so if, let's say you've closed out, but you weren't done adding in your projects, if you had to still relist other projects, you would just go to the bottom left of that box and it says relist projects from previous fiscal year. And you will see it takes you right back to the page that we had gotten out of earlier. If you still need to add new projects, once you're in the manage page, again, you just go to the bottom of the box, but this time the right corner, and you'll hit add new project and a blank form will come up for you to input for your project intake detail. So pretty simple in that respect. No need to make it more complicated than it has to be. If it's not necessary, you don't need to do it. And just to show you what happens if you hit create fiscal year proposed project list submittal, but one has already been created or initiated, this is what you'll see. So it'll give you a notice and then you'll hit click here to view your agency submittal and it'll take you back to that manage page. So eliminate, yes.
Sorry, someone asked if we can go over how we create the PDF in the event an agency wants to build out their project list within CalSmart and then PDF it and export it and use it as their adopted project list.
So, so by creating how to create the PDF, you simply, once you've selected the record that you've created here on the left-hand side where it says submittals, you scroll down, you find this one here that says 24-25, make sure that you've selected it. If you're not on the correct one, this red bar banner will come up over it, letting you know that you're not even on an active cycle. So you need to make sure that you're in the right cycle, and then you're just going to select button right here and it says create PDF. And once you've done that, the PDF will download and open. And then with your own operating system, once you've saved it and whatnot, you'll be able to go in and, because it is editable within the PDF itself, if I select edit, I can come in here and I can make changes to the PDF document itself, like getting rid of some of these additional columns if I didn't want them there. If I wanted to minimize it a bit and make it how Oxnard had done theirs, you can do that by editing the PDF itself. If not, you can always create a table entering in the same information, but these are your options. Or you can leave all of this information as it prints out, and then all you're doing, once you've done that, all you're doing is you're going to save the file, get rid of this first page, save the second page that has the list of projects on it. Oops. So you just save the second page that has the list of projects on it, and you would add a header to that says like attachment A if you wanted to attach it. So you have some options of how that works best for you, but that's how the PDF is actually created within the system itself and available for you to use.
Okay, and a follow-up to that. So how would one go in and edit that project after they've built it in?
So right here I'm back in the manage page. You have to be on the right submittal. It says projects. There's this box. And if it doesn't show up for you, there is this column. You just, kind of have to slide and adjust it. There's this column that says view edit, right, where the project is, and you're going to select that eyeball. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, hit edit, and all of the fields that you have entered in for this project are now open for you to be able to edit and correct in any way that you need. And then just save once you're done. Then go back to your submittals page if you need to. Do we have any other questions?
Someone asked, can you clarify what we are to report? Total costs with RMRA and other funding sources, or just RMRA funded items only? There was an instance where we saw a total project cost where Alicia told us to enter a complete total for the project.
So what I was talking about there is that the estimated total project cost, so to clarify, you're not reporting anything right now. You are providing your project detail to us of what you're proposing to do. There is a field in here that says estimated total project cost that you could potentially enter in. Right here, it says estimated total project cost, all project funding, including RMRA. This means what is the total value of that asset? How much money is being put into whatever it is, the work that you're doing, that you're reporting to us on. It doesn't matter if it comes from RMRA. It doesn't matter if it's coming from 5 other sources that you have. It's just asking, what is this total allocated cost of that has been set aside for this project, right? What do you estimate the value to be? And so that's why it's not required, because there's nothing in there that says required to provide us all your funding sources. It's just beneficial as a whole for not only us, but for the legislature, for the public to know and understand what the total cost of these projects can be. And that in a lot of instances, the armory funding that you're getting is just a small fraction of the overall costs that go into these projects, right? They are helping to deliver them. They're in most cases, for most of you, they are not going to be the sole funding source. So that's just an opportunity for you to show that. During expenditure reporting, nothing to do with this period of time. During expenditure reporting, you are only required to tell us how much RMRA money you spent in that fiscal year for that project. But again, we do ask for you to provide us the total overall project cost. All right, anything else?
I don't see any other Q&As, and I don't see any raised hands.
All right. I'm either really, really good or everyone is tired after lunch. I'm going to go with I'm really, really good because confidence is key. So back to our PowerPoint, which is just almost done. You're gaining so much time back, I promise. So frequently asked questions. You know, I'm not going to go too into depth of these because a lot of it's repetitive from the training itself. But again, if you are relisting the same projects from last year, do you still need a new resolution? We just had someone ask us this in our earlier session saying, I don't have anything new to list or propose, so I don't think we need a resolution this year. No, you still need the resolution. If you do not do this and that resolution does not include a eligible project for funds that are identified for that funding year, then you won't be receiving funding at all. So, you know, that's the way it works. There's no wiggle room around that. Can we just use our capital improvement plan adopted for the coming fiscal year as the proposed project list? And again, several reasons why that's a no, in the sense of you cannot do your entire plan or just identify snippets of your plan and have it all adopted as one. They need to be standalone items. And so we've addressed that at several different times, but I do hope that throughout this training and showing you the different examples of why it needs to be very specific in a standalone item for the program and for the funding is because of the mandated detail that has to be in there in order for us to deem you compliant and eligible. If any of that is missing and it gets lost in the shuffle, you know, unfortunately that can be a negative repercussion for you. So I know we have some questions.
We do. I will have Maria. If you want to take yourself off mute, you can ask your question.
Yes, sorry about that. So I'm Maria Custodio from City of San Diego. In case the project has been fully exhausted, the RMRA funded, but the construction is still continuing using the CIP funded, do we report it is as completed, or we have to wait until the total project is fully completed?
So that's done during expenditure reporting. That's not right now. But so once the project is operational, open to the general public, and the work is done and completed, that's when it's completed
Okay.
for the purposes of this. It
But
doesn't
if-
matter. It doesn't matter if you've exhausted all of your RMRA funds, because your RMRA funds, there rarely ever is there a single project in the history of any project here that uses one single solitary funding source. Very rarely does that happen. And
okay.
so your asset is delivered when your asset is delivered. That's when your project is complete, not just when you've exhausted your funding for RMRA.
All right. Thank you very much.
Of course, not a problem.
All right, it looks like we have one more hand. Maruz, if you would like to take yourself off mute, you could ask your question.
I just wondering if I can have a copy of the sample resolution for Davis. That was very helpful. If we can have a copy or the PDF of it.
You know, we'll ask, it's going to be a public document about 7 days.
Okay.
So I don't see an issue, but their sample resolution is actually our resolution that we've built out, and they just plugged their specific detail into it. So that's all there, but I don't see an issue with it because again, it is going to be a public document in about 7 days.
Sure. And also, I was just wondering, is there a phone number for a quick question to call and ask? Is that, where can I get that phone number for contact?
So we all have individual lines. We do not have one
Okay.
singular calling source. If you email the LSR inbox, one of us will respond to you, and our numbers are usually attached to those emails. So you'd be able to call us if you need something. I will say that for the most part, we're pretty good at responding within like an hour or so. Okay, let me rephrase this. Celeste and Leanne are absolutely stellar at responding within an hour or so. Me, on the other hand, I don't always get to them, and they get lost in the mix of some of the other stuff that I have too. So it may take me a few more hours or a day to get back if things are really bogged down and busy. With that being said, the closer it gets to eligibility, it doesn't matter if it's a phone call or an email. It will be hard to get a rapid response or direct connection with any of us within those last, week and a half, because we're pretty much almost always on the phone. I think we all lose our voices towards the end of it. We're almost always on the phone and emailing and doing all of that for the final week and a half of eligibility, because we're working and talking with so many. So the earlier you reach out, the better. And there's an email on this, and I'll be able to show you that here in a minute too.
Thank you. Sure.
Of
Thank you.
course.
All right, it looks like another hand just went up. Mark, if you would like to unmute yourself, you could ask your question.
Thank you. We're in the process of incorporation. We're going to be a city by July 1st this year. When do we anticipate the RMRA? Because I don't see, I don't see our district in there in the list of cities.
Yeah, so that was the was that May or January? That's the January revise. You'll see an estimated amount for you guys probably in the May revised budget that comes out. Since now you've been adopted, or you're in the process of being incorporated into as a city, that should come out and could possibly be identified in there in May, in the May governor's revised budget, which actually doesn't hit until June. So when it's published and everything for the estimates. So I would suspect around then. And something to note, everybody give applause to Mountain House. They're now going to be a city. Congratulations on that. So
Thank you.
something to kind of note is that, you're not incorporated until July 1st. So there's no way that you would hit the July 1st deadline.
Yeah.
So you'd have to come in for subsequent. You'd have to have a project identified, and it could be a project for future fiscal years, like I said, that you're identifying, because you're going to be accruing your funds, rolling over your funds in order to fund it. So that sort of stuff's going to happen. But we're going to have to do a meeting with you guys. You have our contact information. Let us know when you're ready, when things are getting closer, or after you've been incorporated, and we can kind of sit down and really walk you through the process of what you're going to need to understand. Because there's going to be some caveats, I think, but I don't entirely know, because I know you don't have an established maintenance of effort, and there's no way for you to have one, right? You don't, there's certain things that just don't exist for you yet. So, this is going to be a fun ride. I gotta say, I'm, we don't get much new stuff in our good old program, but this is, I'm excited to be able to see what you guys can do. So bad news to the rest of you on the training. There's an extra city in the mix now, and I'm going to have to get my head wrapped around saying 540 instead of 539 jurisdictions. But that's okay. Yeah, so that's going to change everyone else's funding by percentages too, because now it's being split and with an additional jurisdiction and more formula has to be used. So again, really interested to see how everything's going to turn out and to help you guys with that.
All right, sounds good. We'll probably
Of
set up
course.
a meeting sometime after July.
Definitely, we would appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Of course, not a problem. Do we have anybody else?
I don't see any hands raised or anything in the Q&A.
All right, perfect. So something we get asked a lot is this the type of project that is eligible for funding? Again, our eligibility checklist is a really great resource for that. It can answer the majority of your questions in regards to eligible use of the funds. Additionally, the state controller's office has their gas tax use guidelines, which are for HUDA. They also reference the RMRA funding in there. And a lot of times what's allowed under the HUDA is also allowed under the RMRA. The difference is they have a requirement on what percentage of your funds can be used, in total. Like you can only use HUDA to pay like 20% of certain types of contracts, right? Under public works. And I think they're like consulting contracts or something, or for design. So there's different requirements that they have that we don't have. But overall, the terms for what is eligible are pretty consistent across the board. When can you access the proposed project list submittal feature? Again, CalSmart's open, ready for you guys to use. If you have changes and status updates for previously proposed projects, can you make them now? You're only going to make those changes if you adopted or readopted that project in the current resolution that you're submitting. If not, this is not the time to update previously proposed or reported on projects. That is going to be done during expenditure reporting December 1st. That is due December 1st, I should say. If you're relisting, do I still need to report it on the annual expenditure report for the current year? Yes, those two things do not have correlation in that sense. So just make sure that you are continuously reporting on the project until the project is complete. And once it is complete, you can still access it another cycle ahead in expenditure reporting. Just a little side note, you can still access it the following or subsequent reporting year, because we know that final closeout does not necessarily mean the project work is, project work is done, complete. That's one thing. Final closeout's a whole other ballgame. That could take 6 months to a year in a lot of cases. And so we understand that. And so we make it so that it's still available if you have to add additional funding, RMRA funds being used, whatever it is on that project. What is the current status of your MOE, of the MOE requirement? Again, MOE, maintenance of effort, that is 100% something that has to go to the state controller's office. We cannot answer those types of questions. But they are a great resource and they can be able to assist you there. Here's some submittal information. I don't think I need to cover that again, but if you need it, it's here. Just remember July 1st or September 30th, right? And then here are some resources, quick links to our guidelines, to our website, state controller's office, the individual statutes for the program. Your year-to-date payments that you've received so far from the state controller's office can also be found here. The projections, the annual estimates. We have the links for that, League of California Cities, State Association of Counties. So everything that you need related to the program is available on these resources tabs. So please make sure that you download the training slides that were uploaded into the chat, or you can access the information because it's also available in the CalSmart resources, help and resources tab as well under local streets and roads. And that is going to conclude today's training. And I just got you back about 23 minutes of your day in your afternoon. So if there's anything else I can do to assist you, please let me know. Are there any further questions?
We do have a hand raised. Dennis, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you could ask your question. I'm guessing Dennis maybe raised his hand on accident. Dennis, if you'd like to unmute yourself to ask a question.
I think he was just giving me a virtual high five.
I agree. You did a great job.
Thanks, Leanne. All right. I do not know what I just did. There we go. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact us, lsr@catc.ca.gov. That is the best way to get a hold of all three of us or any one of us at any given time, because all three of us man that email, and somebody will respond to you as soon as we can. Hopefully all of you take care, have a wonderful weekend, and cheers to another cycle. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.